Give you a minute for those of you that need to pull out the journal, or those of you that have not opened that curriculum box yet because you were waiting on me. Go ahead and open that, take out your journal, and we are going to make introductions. I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves, but part of this plays into your journal entry also, because with your first journal entry, I want you to think about your role as an instructional leader. And I want you to tell me in your journal, what are you most passionate about as an instructional leader? And then on the other side of that, what's your greatest challenge as an instructional leader? I'm going to give you time to write about those two things and do that reflection in your journal. And then when we come back together, you're going to introduce yourself. And in the introduction, you're going to tell us your name, you're going to tell us your school, your district, and you're going to give us this information. What are you most passionate about? What's your greatest challenge as an instructional leader? Okay? Any questions about what we're going to be doing?
Can you tell me, should we know when our package is supposed to arrive? Or
they are scheduled to arrive between the first date that they told us was today through Friday. Some people got their boxes yesterday.
Okay.
Everybody else should be getting theirs within the next couple.
Okay. Was it shipped to our school address?
It was shipped to the UPS address that you provided to me on the Google form.
Okay.
So whatever that address is, that's where it was going.
That's great. I can't remember what that was, but that's fine.
I can look it up for you when we break, Rachel, and let you know.
That's the way my life is. I don't remember, but I'm sure I'll get it.
I'll check the address for you here in a few.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I am going to give you 5 minutes to work in your journal and to answer those two questions. And then we will come back together and we'll introduce each other, or we'll introduce ourselves to one another. So I'll see you guys in 5 minutes.
Rachel, we send it to 204 South Kearney Street.
That's perfect. That's our school address. Thank you.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Thanks, Michelle.
Lincoln Elementary with Pryor Public Schools. And as an instructional leader, I am most passionate about empowering teachers to know that they actually have the greatest impact. I mean, of course, I'm passionate about, academic growth, but for me and my role, I feel like my position in that is empowering the teachers. My greatest challenge, that's probably the same as everybody, is time. But if I really look past that, I put that really, I feel like I need to have a better understanding of the curriculum tools available to the teachers, so I can really, I want to empower them, but I want to be able to help them with how, what does that look like? And our biggest blessing here is kind of a curse all at the same time, because we have so many resources that it's amazing, but we have so many resources that it's really hard. And this is just my second year here as an admin, but I find it difficult to feel like I have a good understanding of all of the grade levels that I need to be helping. So that's probably my biggest challenge.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Amber. Okay. Who would like to follow Amber?
I'll go next.
All right, Rachel.
My name is Rachel Maley. I'm the elementary principal at Kearney Public Schools, little tiny school off the Turner Turnpike between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. I am pre-K through 8, so that in itself is probably my biggest challenge. I taught second grade for 13 years, so I know second grade curriculum very, very well. I know first, I know third, I know that realm, but to go beyond that, I have a really hard time helping my middle school teachers because I don't know their curriculum like I maybe should. I too am very passionate about empowering teachers. I just love it when they find something that works for their students. You know, they have these resources and they have this plan, and we talk about that plan, and they go and put that in place, and then that one doesn't work. So we come up with another plan, and that works for those students, and they're so excited about finding something that worked for their students, and that's really empowering to me because I feel like that's an area that I'm really good at, is helping them find that there's no one solution for every class, there's no one solution for every student, but there is a solution. We just have to find it. And so I also, like Amber was saying, when I first came here, there were absolutely no resources. There's one teacher per grade level. Every teacher was doing their own thing. And so we got resources, we have those things, and now that all of the virtual resources are rolling out, I almost feel like it's too overwhelming for them. It's too overwhelming for me. There's too many resources for all of us to learn and know and figure out what works. And then we're struggling to do even one of those well, you know? And so for me right now, that's the biggest challenge, along with knowing their curriculum, their standards, what they need. And those middle school teachers are planning for 4 different grade levels. So they're struggling to know standards for 4 different grade levels, and several of them are very new in their first or second year. So just being able to help them understand that more, and that goes back to having the time to know that the discipline portion alone pretty much consumes what I do during the day, and I do the rest at night with my own family, my 3 kids. So it just takes a lot of time.
It does. That's good. Thank you, Rachel. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next. So my name is Donna Collier. I'm the Ridgecrest Elementary Principal in Middale Schools, and Ridgecrest is pre-K through 5th. I am passionate from a different perspective. Sometimes I have a background in school counseling as well as a classroom teacher, and so the social emotional learning always plays a part in where I come from. But I love seeing students connect with other students, and so you take a perspective of helping them pick something up that they might have dropped, or being able to take something that they've learned at school out into the real world and applying it along those lines. So the social emotional piece is something that I'm very passionate about, because when we know that students are loved and they feel like that school is home, then we're going to be able to take them miles further on down the road in their educational career. So an example of that is that I have a sweet 5th grade boy that his family wanted him to do virtual, but he had a principal that loved him dearly and he needed to show up to school. So he is here on our A schedule day, and I love seeing that. And so that connection is important to me. It's something I'm very passionate about. One of the greatest challenges is really challenging my teachers and being able to give them the tools they need. So high challenge and high support. I have one of the most amazing teams here at school. So as an instructional leader, I want to push them to be able to help our students grow. And so one of those challenges is being able to also delegate, and just to be able to make sure that they have everything that they need to do what they need to do with our children. And my school's like a family, so we truly love each other, support each other, and that's one of those things: high challenge, high trust, high support. So
Very good. Thank you, Donna. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. Go ahead.
Did I go over somebody?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is that Ron? Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Caroline Miller. I am the principal at Peterbaugh Middle School in McAllister. And I would have to say that I'm passionate about creating relationships with my staff, and then those relationships with the students. I want our school to be a safe environment for the kids. And I want the teachers to feel confident in themselves, and, you know, not that I'm going to be looking over their shoulder and watching them. I really encourage thinking outside the box, innovative ideas, and just kind of rolling with it. And I know that might sound not what I'm supposed to do, but, you know, if I don't have trust in my teachers, and then how are they going to trust themselves in the classroom? One of my greatest challenges, I think it's probably everybody scope wise, would be funding, because I'm wanting to create these thinking outside the box ideas and innovative ideas. We just don't have the money for all the things that the teachers want to use. So that's kind of my professional challenge. I would say my personal challenge is delegating. I want to get it done, and I know that I'm going to do it correctly. And so trying to give that gift to somebody else is difficult for me to do, and I'm still trying to overcome that myself. So that's me.
Very good. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and follow Caroline, because we must be long lost relatives or something. But I'm most passionate about building relationships with staff and students. You know, Rita Pearson said, kids don't learn from people they don't like. And I think that also holds true with staff. They don't really like to take leadership suggestions from somebody they don't like and somebody they don't trust. So, and then also my greatest challenge, I think, is delegating tasks to my colleagues. I like to be involved. I feel like I want to make sure that things get done correctly, but I've also got to realize when I came to Woodward, I was allowed to build my own team, assistant principals and counselors and athletic director and all of that. And I know that I've hired really great people to be around me, and your success depends on the people that you have around you. And I hired them for a reason, and I need to let them do what they were brought in for, and getting a lot better at that. I think that's my biggest challenge.
All right, good. Thanks, Ron. I like Rita Pearson too. She was awesome. Okay. Who wants to follow Ron?
I'll go.
Oh. All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Andrea Walker, and I am the assistant principal at KIPP Tulsa Public Charter Schools at the middle school in Tulsa. So I'm most passionate about equipping teachers to provide quality education of the whole student, and providing equal opportunities for education for all of our students. So that means students of color, SPED, boys, regardless of economic status. That's my greatest passion. It also happens to be the greatest challenge, because we have teachers who come in on varying levels. So making sure that everyone is equipped to provide quality education to our students to help them grow to be college ready. So that's me.
Very good. Thank you. Who would like to follow Andrea?
Andrea, I'll follow Andrea. My name is Tammy Woods, and I'm a principal at Keys School District. I know a lot of you are familiar with Tahlequah, so pretty close to Tahlequah. I would say that I'm most passionate about student learning and student leadership. My background is in special education, and Andrea, I certainly can, I feel like we're sisters, because that, having that high school background in special ed, and also having that, I was over the alternative school and director of special services, and I think that trying to make sure that we have, my teachers have a shared vision that, all students are going to grow, they're all going to learn. It will be at different levels and different paces, but certainly being more prescriptive with their teaching and making sure that all of our students are growing and learning. And so that is what I'm most passionate about. And student leadership. We recently, I was just looking at, I know Amber's a part of this team, and we are one of 3 schools that just that we were recognized as having achieved lighthouse status for the leader in me. So we're pretty excited about that, and that has taken us to, I think, our school in terms of student leadership to a different level. certainly proud of that. My greatest challenge right now as a building principal is COVID-19 and trying to make sure that all of our students are safe and making sure that we are able to, it's a worry that is always on my mind, making sure that we are doing all that we can do to keep our kids safe. That's a challenge. It's a challenge week to week to see, where we are in terms of numbers. And so that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks, Tammy. Who would like to follow Tammy?
I can.
Okay.
I'm Lavonna Copeland, and I'm the Okmulgee High School principal. And I'm most passionate about students having the opportunity to get the most out of their education so they have choices for their life. I want everybody to be productive and successful, whatever their definition of that is. But I want everybody to have the choice to do whatever they want to do. My greatest challenge, several people have shared my greatest challenge. I have a hard time not letting go and letting people do their job. I do know how I want things done, and sometimes I'm afraid I haven't expressed that like I need to, but I do have a great team and they never disappoint. I'm getting better at it, but that is a huge challenge, and I'm finding as I'm getting older, I don't have the energy that I did have to. I don't have to have my hand in every single thing, but that and time.
Thank you, Lavonna. Okay, who would like to follow?
I'll go ahead and go.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Scott McAdoo. I work for Oklahoma City Public Schools. I'm the principal at Classen School of Advanced Studies High School at Northeast here in Oklahoma City. And I've been in about getting on 25 years as a teacher, assistant principal, different positions. Always have been passionate about that student, the student lens of seeing things from a diverse perspective. I always love to try to be mindful about creating learning environments that are respectful of a diverse group of students. And baked into our mission is global citizenry, and this concept of allowing students to reflect on the perspectives of others. And so I kind of always use that as my baseline or my anchor whenever we do, instructional planning or any other things that we're doing in our building. The challenges, I think, are for me to grow my team professionally and create a balance between providing them the autonomy, leveraging their experience to design those instructional learning environments, and kind of balance that with what we know are best practices, research-based practices, and creating that right blend between, like I said, creating an opportunity for my teachers to be autonomous, but at the same time leaning back on professional, research-based things that we know work for our kids. So that's me.
All right, very good. Thanks, Scott. Okay, who would like to follow Scott?
I'll go. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Sherry McKinney. I am the assistant principal up here at Shawnee Middle School. This year I am in charge of 6th grade. So that's an adventure. It's my first time with 6th graders. My biggest passion, the thing I'm most passionate about, is really looking at the whole child and how our students come to us with a myriad of needs, all of which can greatly impact their ability to learn the academic content in our classrooms. And so I really enjoy working with teachers to figure out how can we best understand and address these needs while also, getting kids to learn math and reading. Because sometimes our kids' needs are so big that until we figure out the need, they're not, you can teach them math all you want, but they're not going to absorb it. One of my biggest struggles this year is one that I think we're all having, which is helping teachers translate what they do in class to an online platform. So we haven't, we're still doing in-person school, but we're also trying to manage Canvas and our kids who are working virtually or here part of the time and gone part of the time. So I'm running into teachers who are just really overwhelmed. And how do we do what you do in the classroom online in a way that kids are still going to be learning, but then also you're not going crazy as a teacher. So that's kind of been the biggest struggle this year, but I think it's one we're all feeling.
Very good. Thanks, Sherry. Okay, who's next?
I'll go ahead and go if nobody else is going. My name is Chris Thomas. I'm the other half of Comet City. I am the principal at Clawson School of Advanced Studies Middle School. And my biggest passion is really creating the conditions of learning for our teachers and our students, building relationships, teaching some of our teachers how to build relationships. That is probably my biggest passion because like somebody said earlier, if they don't love you, they're not going to learn from you. So that's my number one goal. However, that kind of creates challenges for me. It's a challenge for me organizing my time to get into classrooms and to learn where to strengthen teachers. That's probably my biggest challenge as an administrator and professional, is organizing my time to get in there.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Chris. Who's next?
Go.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Eldrenkamp, and I am from the Oklahoma State Department of Education. I work with the Office of School Support and Improvement as a school support specialist. And so I work with schools currently. I have about 11 that I support leadership teams. So I guess as an instructional leader, I'm most passionate about supporting leadership teams and examining or just growing their beliefs about their current roles, relationships, and teaching and leadership practices. And really, I think one of the challenges is just with having to support 11 schools, which is a lot less than I've had in the past. So I'm really grateful for that. You know, just being able to spend the needed time with the teams and develop those relationships sometimes can be a challenge. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Lorraine. Rhonda?
I'm Rhonda Schroeder, and I'm the principal at Southeast Middle School in Oklahoma City, and I'm the counterpart of Chris and Scott. Southeast Middle School is a new application school in Oklahoma City, and we focus on STEM curriculum for OKC, and our students go to our Southeast High School. And so my passion in leadership is kind of a combination of what all of you said, but really focusing on equipping teachers to ensure that they have what they need for the desired student outcomes. We focus quite a bit also on global education, digital citizenship, digital learning in this day and age anyway. And so those are some big things that we're very passionate about. But then the other thing I'm really passionate about is helping to create a school environment that kids love to learn in, and a workplace that the best teachers want to stay and teach and lead in. And so that takes quite a bit of creativity and energy and outside of the box thinking. I would say my greatest challenge, and this is probably not new to anyone who knows me well, but my greatest challenges is really managing the details and the deadlines of school leadership. When you tend to kind of work in a visionary angle of things, not everything works on someone else's deadline. And so that probably is my challenge. And so I try to surround myself with people who can dive into the details and remind me where I need to get back on track and kind of manage that part. It truly takes a team to do that, because we all have strengths and challenges that we need others to help fill those gaps on. So that's where I struggle a little bit.
Very good. Thanks, Rhonda. Who would like to follow?
I'll go. I'm Jocelyn Lundy, and I'm the assistant principal at Coolidge Elementary in Oklahoma City. And my passion is not wildly different than a lot of you have said, but building those relationships, teaching the whole child and considering that. I want kids to come to school and have teachers that are rationally crazy about them, and championing for all of our students. I love hard kids and have a special place, and I want teachers to love their kiddos so that they do want to learn and can learn at a high level. My greatest challenge, especially with COVID, is finding that balance. I don't pretend to be a balanced person to begin with, but finding the balance between pushing hard, expecting excellence, and also meeting teachers where they are, finding that sweet spot to kind of scaffold for them, is obviously a very energy requiring event and takes a lot of time and effort. So just finding that sweet spot, because I do want teachers to love what they do and to feel like they're in that flow that really helps them execute well for kiddos. So.
Very good. Thanks, Jocelyn. Who would like to follow?
I'll go ahead and go.
Okay.
I'm Carolyn Anyong, and I am the head principal at Western Heights Ninth Grade Center. And Western Heights is in Oklahoma City on the west side. And just like all of you guys, gosh, I want to empower my teachers. I'm a second-year principal, and I want to empower my teachers and help them see we are a transitional center here. So we are the first stop for our kids when they go to high school, which is a separate building. And I want them to see that our student success is our teacher success. And I want them to feel empowered and knowledgeable and to be able to give them the supports and recognize their strengths and how I can bring them together and also pair them with their teachers at the high school that they work with, their colleagues, and help them see where they can help each other improve and grow for our kiddos. I'm also very passionate about maintaining a strong and healthy culture here. I am a product of Western Heights. I graduated from high school here way back when, I won't tell you when, but it was a different school and with a different group of kiddos that came through, and our demographic has changed so much. And I'm just passionate about giving our kids and our teachers what they need and what they deserve here at our school. And like all of you, so many of you, our biggest challenge, my challenge as a second-year principal, and what I hope to get to learn from you all is, how do you learn to begin a year and coach teachers and help students grow and go through year one and then start all over in year two, and now it's online and everything is totally different. And so I just hope and I look forward to working with you all to learn through what we're going through. So.
Very good. Thanks, Carolyn. Okay, who's next?
I'll go. My name's Joe Rohr. I'm assistant principal at Noble High School, and I'm really passionate. My background is in special education, so I'm really passionate about the inclusive learning, the flexible learning, and active participation from teachers and students. So I really like to encourage them to cultivate their own leadership as teachers, so that they can change their modalities and methods of instruction to include all the different learners that they may have in class, and really try to make it as cohesive and conducive as possible. The challenges that we face, or I face personally, is, as it's been said before, delegating. I was always the one in group projects that kind of just took it over because if my name's tied to it, I want it done to the expectations that I have. And so that, whether that be delegating things throughout our leadership team or to some of the other teachers in the building, is one that I personally face. And then I think a lot of us, as the transition with the COVID pandemic, is maybe finding ways to encourage our more veteran or teachers who are reluctant to the change that's coming. You know, the pendulum swings so frequently in education, but this one of the increase in the technology in the classroom and how they've gone from maybe the brick and mortar of a lecture-based instruction to now, how can it be academically enriching in a virtual standpoint, and encouraging them to find their voice and really give them the autonomy to have control of that themselves. So I'm eager to collaborate with all of you and share ideas and learn. So.
Very good. Thanks, Joe. Who wants to follow Joe?
I'll jump in. My name's Marcia Cusack, and I am the superintendent principal / counselor at Taloga Schools. And I have a background in coaching and taught several years in Enid and was assistant principal and counselor there. And so I'm very passionate about kids of poverty, and believe wholeheartedly in Ruby Payne and the things that she teaches us and has shared with us. And so I'm just passionate that kids, you know, exceed their potential and that everyone grows, no matter how much growth that is from year to year. And so with that, I grew up where I'm, excuse me, where I'm at. And so much like Western Heights, I remember how it used to be. And so it's very hard for me to go home and see that it's not the best school in the county and not that, and that our kids are not getting what I think is the best of everything. And it's not the best of everything financially because we're very well off, but making sure that we meet those needs because as all of you know, homes are not what they used to be. All of our kids have trauma. They all see things that they shouldn't see until they're adults. And so I think with that, the biggest challenge for me is making sure that we help every student that needs help and that we do what we need to do. And so I am challenged, I guess, and with the COVID, of making sure that I have the very best staff anywhere. And I've been fortunate to hire a lot of really good people, but I think that in the last year, we've been able to openly identify those people who are not passionate about what they do. And if you're passionate, you roll with the changes and you spend the time and you do whatever you have to do to reach your kids. And so that's been the challenge, and just making sure that we continue to help kids, because now I think socially and emotionally with the distance learning, we've got a whole new, you know, troublesome year ahead of us of making sure we keep kids engaged and that we get the growth.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Marcia. Okay, so I am not able to see everybody on my screen at the same time. So who has not yet introduced themselves?
I have not gone yet.
All right, you ready?
Sure, I'll go ahead and jump on. My name is Jamie Price, and I am the principal at Parker Intermediate Center in McAllister. So Caroline and I work together. I train her kids up and send them on to her. So anyways, this is my eighth year to be a principal. So I started as the assistant here my first year and then moved to one of our 3 elementary schools, which will come back in my challenge here in a second. And so we have 3 elementary schools in McAllister at 3 different locations with different demographics, with different poverty levels, different resources almost. They're working on getting all those done, but and then they all feed back into me now at the 5th and 6th grade center. So that would definitely be considered one of my challenges that I would say, just being able to take all kids from all different levels and all different buildings and bringing them all together to train them up right in the way that we want to have school and redefine it. So I would say that I've always been an underdog kind of principal because the school that I was at was definitely almost at 100% poverty. And so, you know, I want them to have expectations, to have accountability. And, you know, I also have that for my teachers as well. And you know, we have a reward system set here up at school. I actually put a game room with Xboxes, PS4s, everything else in the front of our building for kids to work, to get to earn in there. And so, you know, we just want to have a whole different climate of school where there's accountability for kids and their actions and their choices and their academics as well. And I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with teachers also. And so, you know, I told them that the better that I can help them be a leader, the easier my job is. And so, you know, if they can feel empowered to make decisions and to have the resources that they need, then it makes my job a lot easier. You know, and Caroline will laugh because I am considered the teacher stealer of the district. And so I love to find great teachers and swipe them over to my school. And so, you know, it's been an interesting, the 5th and 6th grade center that I'm at right now, they've had 6 principals in the last 8 years. And so luckily for me, I've been in the district for 14 years now. So, you know, I've had a lot of kids, and some of these kids I had in elementary. So I've had them since 1st grade, and now I have them as 5th and 6th graders. So, you know, I feel like everybody else said a huge part is relationships and knowing the families. And I really enjoy that part of being at my school, is being able to continue those relationships also. So we do lots of celebrating with staff and with students. And I feel that's a huge part, especially right now with all the stress of COVID, like everybody else is talking about. So anyways, that's me in a nutshell.
Very good. Thanks, Jamie. Okay, who would like to follow Jamie?
I can go next.
Okay.
So my name is Richard Mead. I am an assistant principal at Shawnee High School. I would say that I am most passionate about providing care and support for teachers. But in doing so, I think it also kind of connects with closing the gap, the equity gap with students, and being able to see the potential that they have. And so kind of marrying those two ideas of getting the teachers to understand a world that they might not have come from, that they can put themselves in their shoes and build those relationships with those kiddos. It just provides so much more opportunity for growth on both sides. So that's what I'm definitely passionate about. I would say my greatest challenge right now is overcoming the fear and anxiety from others. Right now, we've got a lot of teachers under stress as kind of what Sherry McKinney was talking about. We were transitioning into online platforms and not knowing, and there's a lot of unknowns there. And so in doing that, it keeps me going, constantly having difficulty to try to keep first things first and constantly just putting out fires in the urgency. So like many of you said, I hope to maybe get some ideas and, tips and tricks and tools to better manage those practices and task managing things, because I feel like I'm just running around with my head cut off half the time. So.
All right, very good. Thanks, Richard. Okay, who would like to follow Richard?
I will go.
Okay, Tracy.
I'm Tracy Coleman. I'm the assistant principal at Eugene Field Elementary in Oklahoma City, and it's a pre-K through fourth grade school. I guess my biggest passion is to really look at the whole child and build that environment, that community where kids love to come to school and you have the relationships, and I truly love each child, and that's my biggest passion, to make sure that I take the time to build those relationships and that knowledge about what each family needs and what each kid needs. But then it's also my greatest challenge, not just time, but also showing teachers that being an assistant principal, I do all the discipline. And so the difference between a correction and a punishment, and sometimes we have a hard time understanding that correction is worth it, and to put in the hard work and make that change on what kind of impact that makes on the child's life as well as the teacher's life. But it's not just an immediate thing sometimes. And so getting teachers to see that it's the whole child and providing what each child needs. I guess my current challenge right now, since we don't have kids, is I have COVID myself. So I'm on quarantine at home with my two kids, and we haven't really seen too many people. But the teachers, so when I'm big into relationships and being there, I'm not there. Mm-hmm. and that's been really hard. So, but I'm glad to be with you guys.
I'm glad you're here too, and I am so sorry that you're sick. I didn't realize that you hadn't felt well.
I don't necessarily, I didn't really know that my two girls came home from their dad's and had it and gave it to me and my mom and everyone around us. So we're here on quarantine, but we're doing okay.
Well, good. I'm happy that you're doing okay, and hopefully, I wish you a speedy recovery.
It will be, but I can't go back to school till next Wednesday, so that gives me some time, I guess.
Yeah, that makes it tough. Well, I bet when that comes up with other people, I bet we're all going to be calling you and saying, how did you do this? So,
Walmart pickup, and I don't know what else. Chocolate.
Oh, that's always good. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Who would like to follow Tracy?
I can go.
Okay.
My name is Dan Hahn. I am the middle school principal at Tulsa School of Arts and Sciences, which is a small independent charter school in North Tulsa. I am passionate about helping our students reach a place of self-actualization and advocacy so that they can begin to be agents of change in our deeply flawed society. My greatest challenge, I think, is that deeply flawed society. I think the the horrifying systemic racism, classism, and other biases that exist in our society position schools behind the 8 ball in a lot of ways. I think positioning schools, which are a deeply social and community-based entity, in a very unwavering white supremacist and capitalist society, really makes us have less of a chance of success than we would otherwise. And so obviously we're able to achieve success for our kids, but yeah, thinking about our federal leadership and just kind of what we're seeing in society, it makes me worried, and is a big challenge, I think, because so much of the way our society's set up is anathema to how public schools are supposed to operate. So in many ways, we're working against the system instead of with it. So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm really glad to be here.
Okay, glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Hey, who would like to follow Dan?
I can go.
Okay, Bridget.
I am Bridget Powell. I am the principal at Aspen Creek Elementary in Broken Arrow. And as an instructional leader, I am most passionate about something that I actually learned in a book that I've been reading this summer. It's the Instructional Leadership book by Peter DeWitt. And he talks about, as the instructional leader, you should be the lead learner. So you're learning alongside your staff. So I'm leading and I'm guiding them, but I think when I show that I'm learning alongside them and that I'm interested in what they are learning, that I kind of feed into their excitement about instruction and making sure that our students are meeting expectations through our curriculum and our standards. And then my greatest challenge is just, you know, our staff and our community and our families and our students are very, they're anxious about what's to come with this school year. And our district is doing in person, but we also have a virtual school. And then we also have the chance of having to do distance learning if something more happens with the virus. So I am also feeling anxious, but I have to kind of keep that at bay, because my strength and my calm is what helps my staff and our community and our families stay calm. So I have my people that I can go to and go, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. But with them, I am calm because I'm trying to help them be calm. And that can be a challenge sometimes when I'm feeling super stressed or anxious. But I have to be that example of calm for them.
Very good. Thanks, Bridget. Okay, who would like to follow?
I can go next.
Okay.
I am Beth Johnson, and I am the principal at Rhodes Elementary in Broken Arrow. And I am passionate about connections, whether it be a relationship connection or how does fractions apply to real life or anything like that. That is what I just really love about being an educator, is finding those little tips and tricks and how-tos to let people know the how and the why of why we're doing what we're doing. And so that's what I'm really passionate about. And I love having those conversations with my teachers as well, especially when they're at that point where they feel like they're not reaching their kids anymore. So let's find new ways to connect the learning with what's going on in the kids' life and the real life. And, you know, that requires a lot of staying on top of what the latest trends are and that kind of thing. And so, you know, if you can Fortnite with the best of them right now, you're probably in the in crowd. So, and how do we use that knowledge then to teach our kids the standards and the curriculum that we need them to learn as well. My biggest challenge is Rhodes is our highest poverty school here in Broken Arrow, and so the extreme needs of my kids, I would say bridging that gap between meeting those needs and then getting them to the point where they can try to learn to read. To me, I just see the 100-degree difference. And so how do we meet those needs quickly? How do we find the resources that we need? How do we get the kids to a place where they do feel safe and comfortable, and then we can move them into academics? And also, how do we train? I struggle sometimes when I walk in a classroom and no teaching's going on because we're trying to meet the needs of a single kid or something like that. And so how do we bridge those gaps, provide the resources, a team of people to help, so that instruction doesn't necessarily stop, but it also helps at the same time? So that's kind of where I feel my struggle is.
Very good. Thanks, Beth. All right, who's
Go next?
All right, Kristen.
All three of us are sharing this space. We want to make sure we're not having feedback. So I'm Kristen Hennis. I am the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning in Broken Arrow Public Schools. I would say that I'm most passionate about student growth and celebrating student growth. So whether that be small amounts of growth with behaviors or small amounts of growth with learning, just to help principals to hone in on those very small steps of growth, and celebrating that with their team and celebrating that in the classroom. So that way we're keeping teachers' buckets filled up, because sometimes it's hard to see that if you're not really intentional at looking at the growth of students. It's hard. You can easily get overwhelmed by the things like Beth is talking about, when kids are bringing in so much into the classroom in order to learn. They're carrying so much baggage, and that can be very overwhelming as a teacher and as a principal, and as a district leader as well. But so if we can try to just focus on small amounts of growth. So that's where I'm just very passionate about that. I would say my greatest challenge, honestly, is time management and self-care. I mean, this job never stops, and so it's really hard to make myself stop. And Tracy, I just came out of isolation, or whatever word we're supposed to use this week. I also tested positive and was stuck in my quarantine to my bedroom or my front office, but I was still working, and it was so hard to shut it off. Just like I just said, I was immediately thrown back into March, where I felt like all we did 24/7 was just work on plans, and so that's hard. So I'm trying to make a very cognizant effort of stopping, pausing, and telling myself it will be here in the morning, and taking time to walk or watch TV with my family, and to try to have some of that for my mental health, so that way we can get up the next day and pick up where we left off. So I'd say that was it.
Right. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so again, I can't see everyone. Have we missed anybody? I'm scanning through to see. My count says we're missing one person. Matt doesn't look like is on, and that's who I think we're missing. So I think we've gone through everybody. You know what I think is really interesting? First of all, I am really excited to work with you guys. Just listening to your passions and your challenges. Every time someone was saying something, I'm like, oh, me too. I want to, that sounds like me. And so this is going to be an awesome group. And I think we will learn a lot from each other. And and talk about those passions and talk about those challenges. And what I find really interesting is, even though you guys come from different size schools, different grade level schools, different parts of the state even, you have a lot of those same passions, you have a lot of those same challenges. And so I think we're going to work really well together. And a lot of the things that you talked about are things that through this executive development plan that we're about to start, we touch on those things. And so I think that you'll find that really, really helpful. I loved, just picking on a few things that people said. I love that Beth said the how and the why. And Beth, were you a math teacher?
No, ma'am, I wasn't. I was a social studies teacher.
Okay, because when you said fractions and how they actually work in the world, my English brain went, okay, I wish that I knew her, but that is awesome. So the how and the why and how things tick and that behind the scenes that we want to know more about, I love that. And the part about staying calm, Bridget, I think you said that about staying calm. And my thing, and I used to have a poster that said, be a duck, because you're calm and just floating along on top, but you are kicking those little legs like crazy underneath, but nobody sees it. You're very calm. So Bridget, be a duck. Just go with that. I think this is going to be a great group, and I am so excited to be a part of this with you guys. I promised you at the beginning we would have a break. I promised you it would be about 10:15, depending on where we are. It is 10:14, so that is pretty much on target. So we are going to take it's short, but I want to give you a few minutes to actually do a quick check of that email if you need to, take care of anything that you need to quickly. I'm going to give you 15 minutes on this first break. So we will meet back here at 10:30, ready to go again. Guys, it is 10:30, so we are going to jump back in. Hopefully everyone had a few minutes to take care of anything that you needed to, emails, things like that. I got a couple taken care of while we were away. So I really think, after listening to everyone today, I really think that this morning was very well spent going through and having this discussion of passions and having and looking at our challenges as we went through. So what I want us to start back with is, I want to let you know, first of all, that throughout this executive development plan, we are going to have the opportunity to view videos that are provided to us by NCEE and NISL, the National Institute of School Leadership. For those of you that have friends that maybe have gone through this program, or other colleagues that have gone through, they'll often refer to this program as NISL. NISL was part of the NCEE umbrella, but now we have switched back to that NISL, or that NCEE name. So you will be seeing, when we jump on the portal, and I'll show you that here in a few minutes, you will see some pieces that will say NISL, but they will be transitioning those over to NCEE, which is the National Center on Education and the Economy. So that's where we have a little bit of branding differences, but we'll be seeing that switch over during this cohort. So throughout this EDP, we're going to have the opportunity to dig into the platform, to look at the curriculum. And one of the things that is really interesting about this program, so many things, but one of the things that's really interesting is that videos are provided to us to strengthen things that we are being taught, to bring out new ideas, and to give us additional samples. So the first video that I want to share with you is actually a welcome to the program video. I need to make sure, before I do that, I need to make sure that I am sharing with my computer sound so that you guys can hear this. So does everyone just thumbs up, just to make sure we're all on the same page, because I'm working with one monitor from home instead of my usual two. Does everybody see on their page where it says NISL? Are you seeing that page? Awesome. Okay, so I want to share with you a welcome from Bob Hughes. Bob Hughes was a former NISL president. He also was the dean of the War College in Washington, D.C., and that plays in a little bit later. So I want to go ahead and share with you the welcome from Bob Hughes.
Welcome to the National Institute for School Leadership's Executive Development Program. What I really want to tell you is how proud we are that you have joined with us in NISL. This is a journey you'll never forget. And as some people have said, coming out of the program, it will be life-changing. And I really believe that because I have now seen it in the experience of so many in the NISL program. If you engage NISL very deeply, and if you focus on improving instruction, leading to higher student achievement in your schools, you will have that life-changing experience. And it's just a great joy to watch that happen as a new community of learners gains the respect, gains the opportunity to share best practices, and gains that deep commitment to the children that are in your charge. I am just very proud to be even the smallest part of the experience you're about to have. There is an icon that we use in NISL that has practice at the center. It isn't that we are not in NISL interested in research and policy and history and heuristics and theory and epistemology. Of course we are, and those are in the research base, but practice. We have to change practice. We have to improve what goes on in the classrooms, and we have to have the leadership in the schools, in the districts, in the state to be able to do this, to really make a difference. So that's where NISL comes out. Well, that's enough. You don't need to hear from me anymore. What you need to do is really put your seatbelt on and get ready because this is going to be one of the most powerful experiences you have had in your professional career. So I thank you very much, and I hope to come and see you in one of the sessions.
All right, so a welcome there from Mr. Hughes. So let me jump back over to our PowerPoint. Okay, everybody with me? PowerPoint? Awesome. Okay, so Bob Hughes and Mark Tucker, who we will actually see in future videos, were part of a study that took place in 1999. This study was conducted by the National Center on Education and the Economy with the support of several different foundations. What they were doing is they were comparing educational leadership development with other fields. So they looked at the fields of law, medicine, business, and the military. They looked at how their leadership development was put into place. How did they go about building these great business leaders, military leaders? And that's part of why Mr. Hughes was actually involved. You know, I mentioned he was dean of the War College in Washington, D.C. So he became a part of this study through that realm. What they learned from that study is that what we needed was to have research-based professional learning. We've known that for quite a while. We also want this to be job embedded. I don't know about you, but I want something that when I'm doing professional development, I want it to be something that I can learn now and I can use now. I don't want it to be something that I learn now and maybe 5 or 6 years later, if by some weird chance I remember it 5 or 6 years later, I can use at that point. We want it to be something that truly is job embedded. And we know from research that we learn best from one another, having that reflection time, having those conversations. And so with that, we know that we want a cohort-centered professional development experience. We also want this to be scalable. We want it to be as you move from one position to another in your district or in a new district even, We want this to be something that you can take with you and you can learn from, you can keep building on through NCEE or through other supports. We want it to be scalable. So what this study resulted in was over 2.5 years and $11 million, they designed and created the National Program of School Leadership. So they developed our executive development program based on this research. And they really did draw leadership experts in from academia, military, and business. So as we go through our case studies, as we go through reading the books that you will get in your curriculum box, if you haven't received that already, what you're going to see is not necessarily books that are only dealing with school. You are going to see case studies that deal with businesses. You are going to see case studies and ideas coming from books on building leadership that have to do with the military. But what is so interesting is how there is a direct correlation there between how these other entities, military, business, were able to structure their leadership development and how it really plays in to what we can do at the site level and at the district level. So up to this point, we have had over 15,000 school leaders that have benefited from the executive development program. That is far more than any program of its kind. There are actually more than 10 states that have either a statewide initiative or a state-led initiative to support school leaders. Oklahoma has a state-led initiative. That means that all of your Lead to Succeed facilitators are current or former site administrators who've successfully completed one of the Oklahoma Lead to Succeed cohorts. So everybody that will be facilitating you over the next 15 months is a graduate of one of the Oklahoma Lead to Succeed cohorts, and they're either currently a building level administrator or a district level administrator. And then you've got me. I'm at the state level now, but I was a middle school principal before I took this position. So I also kind of fit into that category, a little differently, but still fit. And I was a middle school principal, so you know, we're kind of weird anyway, so we have to fit into that. We fit into several categories. The State Department finds this program, the Executive Development Program, so valuable and such an enriching opportunity for school leaders that we actually include this in our educator effectiveness budget every year. So this has allowed us to scholarship the curriculum and the facilitation of this program for everyone in our cohorts, past and present. So that's something I'm really proud of, that we were able to go through and scholarship everybody in this program. And that way we can all learn, we all have that basis that we're learning from, and we can take this great information back into our schools across the state. So why do we do this? There are proven results that come out of this executive development program. They specifically looked at when Johns Hopkins and Old Dominion University looked at this program. They specifically looked at ELA performances and math performances of schools led by NISL graduates. Now keep in mind, it's not only that they're being led by NISL graduates, it's that these graduates have taken these NCEE NISL ideas and implemented them in their building. And so with this in mind, what they found when they did the study with Johns Hopkins and Old Dominion is that there was a great improvement in ELA scores with an average of about 0.5% higher than other comparison schools each year, not just 1 year, but each year. So they kept building. Likewise in math, they were looking at the end of a 4-year baseline that they put together. The typical NISL school had an increase of, as it says on the slide, 1.92% more students achieving proficiency than were expected. This is based on the ideas that we're going to be looking at in the next 15 months. It's based on building those relationships that you guys were talking about. It's based on putting all of these ideas into this program. So, talking about the overall goals of the plan. When you're looking at the overall goals of this executive development plan, we are going to be looking specifically at the tools and the technical assistance that you need to drive your school to become high performing, to have high expectations and high student achievement for all of your kids. We're also looking to assist you in engaging in strategic and systemic processes. What that means is we want to empower your school teams. We want to help you empower your school teams in every aspect of your school. And we want to build and sustain that collaborative learning culture. That sustainability is so important because what we want is for these ideas to be so entrenched in your buildings that even if you transition to another position within your district or into another district, that collaborative learning culture is sustained, even if you transition somewhere else. We want this to become second nature. We want to show you how to use data. You know, I was in a training, and it actually was my Lead to Succeed training when I was in the Clinton cohort. I was seated next to a principal, and she looked at me, and she said, you know, she said, I collect a lot of data. And I just kind of nodded because I wasn't really sure where she was going with this, but she collects a lot of data. And she said, I've got stacks of it. I collect data from every grade level, from every classroom, but what do I do with it? I've got tons of it, but what do I do with it? And so oftentimes we see that people collect lots of information for lots of different reasons, but we want to look at that data and see how are we using it to enrich classroom instruction, and how are we using it to make those instructional decisions. And as you guys mentioned a couple of different times as we were going through the introductions, we really want to focus on those best practices for instruction. We want to look at those benchmark processes. And above all, we really want to foster a community of learners. We want to make sure that we have all of this entrenched in our schools. So, there are 4 themes of NISL, 4 big ideas that everything that we're going to do in the next 15 months fits under these 4 ideas. So look at these on this slide for a minute. Think about how these fit in with your goals, whether that is Title I goals, whether that is goals through school support, whether that is just the goals that you have for your building or in your district. Our 4 goals that we are focusing on in the next 15 months is we want to create and support equitable opportunities for learning for everyone. We are going to look strategically within our educational system. We want to look at strategic thinking. It's all a plan. So we need to think about that strategically. We want to build our organizational talent and our capacity. Think about that for a second. When we have a high rate of teacher turnover, administrator turnover, a lot of times it's because we haven't gone in and really built that talent pool and we haven't built that capacity. And so one of the things that we have found through our own anecdotal information that we have at the State Department is that we are now able to go in with NISL training. We're able to go in and help in these areas, especially organizational talent and capacity. We're able to retain teachers in a building because we're building this capacity, because we're building the relationships, and they're feeling more secure. Someone said, and I'm not sure who it was, that this is our building is a family. And so we have that family feel. Also, we need to make sure, again, we're leading, but we're also sustaining this transformation. So whatever changes we're making, it's not something that we're doing one year and forgetting the next year. It's something that we're putting into place, we're building on, tweaking as necessary, and making it where it's something that really digs into that climate and culture of our building, and it becomes sustainable. So our 4 big goals, as we go through and we do our readings, whether it's a case study, it's an excerpt from the text, or our discussions, what you're going to find is everything that we're working with will fall under one of these 4 ideas. So keep these in mind. This may be something for those of you that have your journal out. You may want to take a little note that these are the 4 main ideas, because we will be revisiting these throughout our time together. And I'll give you a minute to do that just in case you want to add those to your journals. Has everyone had the opportunity to write those down? Okay, very good. So I want to take a little bit, and I want us to just look at the curriculum that some of you have already received. I see Kristen digging through books. So some of you have already received it. Some of you will be getting that today or within the next couple of days. You guys will be receiving that. But I want to kind of show you the types of things that you're going to be receiving. So when you open that box, first of all, when you pick up that box, brace yourself, it's got some stuff in it. So when you open that box, you are going to receive a book bag that has all kinds of stuff in it. It almost feels like Christmas. This is where I miss us being together, multiple reasons, but one of the reasons I miss us being together, because when we do the orientation normally, I cart in all these boxes and start handing them out to everybody, and they start opening them. So it really does kind of feel like a lot of Christmas presents. But you guys are all going to receive a book bag, and I'm not going to play Vanna, but I'm going to show you the book bag. In this bag, you are going to receive several different books. Now, don't be overwhelmed. Keep in mind, we are going to be working on all of this over the course of 15 months. So it's not something that you're going to have to read every single thing next month. The other thing is with the different books that you receive in the book bag, we don't read any of the books in its entirety. We take excerpts from the books. But what's really interesting is when you go through and start reading these, and I love this one, when you go through and start reading these, what you're going to see is you want to know a little bit more. So all of a sudden you're going to be reading the entire book. And if you're like I am with the light in here, I don't know if you could see, you see all my little tabs in there? I've gone through and I've tabbed the books because I work with lots of different cohorts and do lots of different presentations. And so I've tabbed the books where it says, hey, this would be great for this, or this would be great to bring up in this moment. And so my books are well used, well loved, but these are yours. Write in them, tab them, whatever you need to do. I'm not going to take them back unless for some bizarre reason you decide you're going to drop us and not come back. Then I have to have it back. But otherwise, these are yours to keep. So write in them and make them your own. There are several books in there. Again, we have had people in the past that have read the book as part of Lead to Succeed, and then they've gone through and they've decided they want to do a book study with either a leadership team or a PLC or their entire staff, and they've used some of these books to do so. You have great, great information in here, and we are going to delve into each one of these. The other things that you see as you're digging in your book bag, you're going to see several short text that we will be looking at in depth. You also have case studies. And I want to show you this because we're going to look at this online as well. Some of you guys, if you're like me, I like the paper copy, a little old school. I like to write all over it. I like to highlight it. Some people are going to want to do this online. These are available online, and I'm going to show you where these are. The other things that are in here, you have your Nissel wheel. Don't lose this. We're going to use this a lot here in a couple of units. So make sure that you're hanging on to this. There is also a little deck of cards that you have in your bag. This is something that people tend to lose because it's a while before we need these. Don't lose them. Hang on to them. Keep them in your book bag, okay? And the good thing is, while we're virtual, your book bag's probably not going to travel too much. For me, I took it, back and forth to Clinton, of course, the entire time, but also I've carried that thing on planes with me going back and forth to different places, different meetings that I had to attend because I needed all my materials for what we would be doing in our next meeting. So again, you'll be getting that book bag. If you do not get that shipment in the next few days, you should have it. What we've been told is all the shipments should be out, except Dan, yours is going to be a little bit delayed. But everybody else, you should have yours by Friday. And Dan, I'll contact you about getting yours to you because yours is going to be a little different. So I'll get that in there. But everybody else should have it by Friday. And I do know several of you have already received that. And so you're good there. The other thing that I want to show you is I want to look at the portal, and I want us to kind of go through a few different things in the portal just to start getting you familiar with it. On the portal, you should have received an email from NCEE. And so in that email, it was your registration, your portal information so that you're able to log in. We will use your portal every single time that we are together. And so you definitely need to have access to it and you need to become familiar with it. So let me scoot all of you guys over here and let me jump into the portal. So some of you may have already jumped on the portal. Some of you may not. The last day or so, it's moved a little slower than usual. So just be patient and let it buffer through. But I have had a little bit of lag on it the last few days. But in the portal, can everybody see my portal screen? Yes? Okay. So when you get into the portal, your screen will look like this one. We have, as I mentioned, 12 units. So we will go through and we will look at this. Each unit we will cover for 1 month. So next month when we meet, you will be doing unit 1. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Unit 1 so that I can show you what we're looking at. So as you click on Unit 1, your screen will look like this one, and some of you may be able to follow along on your own portal as we're going through, but your screen will look like this one. This gives you great background information. So as you're going through, it gives you your background information. You scroll through, it gives you key concepts. So these are the objectives that we're going to hit for Unit 1. And as you can see, there are several things. Our units are going to be very full, which is why we have to make sure we're starting on time. As you keep scrolling down through here, what you're also going to see besides the objectives is you will see pre-work, participant pre-work. This is really important that you guys know where this is, because these are the things that you are going to need to do before we meet next time. All of the pre-work for every unit is divided into 2 days. So it specifically tells you, what do you need to have done ahead of time for day 1? What do you need to have done ahead of time for day 2? Now, as long as we're virtual, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, as long as we're virtual, we are going to be splitting these 2 days into 3. We'll meet 3 consecutive mornings. So we will be doing most of day 1, and then we'll catch up with it on our second virtual day together. This goes in order of what you need to achieve before you come and see us. So what that means is if you look down through here, the very last thing mentioned under day 1 where it says scan over standing on the shoulders of giants, that one, we're not going to get that far on our virtual day 1. We're just not. So make sure that you do everything above that, because that one we're actually going to do on our virtual day 2. Does that make sense? I see no head shaking but my own. Everybody good? Okay. So here it gives you your homework before you come in. If you notice everything that's listed in here, if it has a link to it, you can click on that link and it takes you right to that assignment. But the other thing that you may notice is when it says, what does it really mean to be college and work ready? Yes, you have the link, but you also have the paper document in your bag. On the 9 building blocks for a world-class education system, again, the link is here, but you also have this in your bag. So when you go through and you start looking for this, if you pull up the 9 building blocks in December and say, oh my gosh, I haven't used anything in this, then you probably use the online version instead of the one that's in your bag. Now, just for clarification, when we first started using Lead to Succeed and NISL 5 cohorts ago, instead of having an online portal, everyone received multiple giant binders filled with all of this, except for the books, of course, in paper format. So they're slowly transitioning to where everything is going to be digital except for the books. So that's why you have a little bit of overlap between what's in the bag, the curriculum bag that you were given, and what's online. So then you will have pieces like the Friedman average is officially over. That's actually one of your books. Actually, it's not. Sorry, that one's actually an article, so click on that. Most of the things that you're going to be doing, you will be able to link to directly from this page. Okay, so this is going to be your homework. What they advise is that for each day of the unit, you would be looking at about 2 hours work prior to the unit. So your pre-work would be about 2 hours. I can tell you from doing this myself, there were some days that it was a definite 2 hours. Some days it was a little bit less. Some days, depending on my attention span for that day, it was a little bit more. You know, it just kind of depends. But this isn't, I would not recommend trying to do this the night before, just because it's going to be a lot to take in. And we're going to be using this to do our whole group direct instruction, our small group instruction, and there will be times that you will have to do some diagnostics ahead of time. And those diagnostics you will actually have to have completed prior to joining the groups. So you really have to have that pre-work done. So schedule your time accordingly. I know that your calendars are absolutely ridiculous, but schedule that time accordingly so that you have the opportunity to do this. You're going to have this to do any of the work within our daily sessions. So here's your work for our next meeting, day 1 and day 2. So when I see you next month, you guys will have read all of this and completed this diagnostic. Any questions about this work?
Have I missed a schedule of when these days are?
I emailed that to everyone, but my next slide, when we get back to the PowerPoint, I'm going to show it to you again. But it should have been in one of your emails, Rachel, one of the early ones. And if you can't find it, I'll be happy to send it to you again.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So,
and I'm sorry, I just needed a clarification that for you will need to do day 1 and day 2 before our next meeting. Is that right?
Before the next
okay.
unit. So really, Tracy, we are looking at getting a little bit more than half of day 1 done for our first virtual session next month.
Okay.
Because what we've done is we've taken these 2 full-day sessions and divided them into 3 half-days.
I just wanted to make sure I was prepared. So
definitely. Thank you. Okay, any other questions before I move on? Okay, so again, showing you where this is because you're going to have to find this one. It is when you click on Unit 1, it's going to be about 3/4 of the way down. So keep scrolling down and you will see where it says participant pre-work, and that's going to be there. Okay, now if you look over at the icons that go down the right side of the screen, you have your search tool, of course. That one is just kind of a given. Then you have the 3 horizontal lines, which for some reason has universally been now referred to as the hamburger. I heard it referred to that in our session, and then when I went to Louisiana to make up a session, they called it the hamburger too. So the 3 horizontal lines, also known as the hamburger icon. When you click on this, it is also going to give you the tools that you would need for this session. Okay. Then the book icon gives you the readings. So before, when under the pre-work, we clicked on the 9 building blocks as one of our pre-reads. That's also here on the side. The paperclip, which we will go to quite a bit during our time together. The paperclip is any participant handouts that you're going to need during our time together. Here are the slides. Under the screen are the slides. So if, as we go through, if you want to follow along with the slide deck, when we get together face to face, a lot of people do this, and you can have your slide deck up. As long as we're virtual, I'm going to be showing you my screen and the slides, and so you should be good on that one. But if you have a question, if it's something that you want to go back and think about, the slides are available to you at all times. Here are the case studies. So in Unit 1, here are the 2 case studies that we're going to be delving into. They're also in your case study book. So again, you can do either one. Any of the videos that we show are also going to be available to you. I am not going to show you guys every one of these videos. We don't have time to do so, but there's some great stuff in here. And so it may be something, if you are taking information that you learned through our program, if you want to take this back and you want to share it at a staff meeting or a PLC meeting or a Teams meeting in your school, you can do that. And here are the videos if you want to share those. And then we have lots and lots of links to get you to the resources that were used through NCEE, and also just different ideas that tie back to this. So this is a wealth of information here, besides having the curriculum box. So that's why for those of you that don't have that curriculum box yet for today, and you'll get it in a few days, you could go ahead and start doing the reading if you want to at this point. Now, I also want to show you, let's go into one of the readings. This is our 9 building blocks. If you've glanced at the curriculum that you received, this is one of the booklets that was in your curriculum box. So the great thing about this is you could go through with the tools that are here at the top. You can highlight information, you can make notes. So anything that I do the old school way, where I have Post-it notes hanging out of all of my books and all of my information, you can do the same thing electronically. One of the things that NCEE does recommend is that you use a computer to do this work, not necessarily a tablet. It's not that you can't do it on the tablet, it's just ease of use. Because as we're working together, we are going to be moving back and forth between the handouts under the paperclip and things like this booklet from the 9 building blocks. And all of your notes may be electronic through this, through the booklet piece. There will be times that I ask you to open a blank document and type your thoughts, and we're going to share those with the community. So it is suggested that you have multiple tabs open for the NCEE or Lead to Succeed work. So next month when we get started, one of the first things I'll remind you of, because again, if you're like me, you're not going to remember this little piece in a few weeks, is go ahead and open multiple tabs, because we will be floating back and forth, and honestly, it just makes your life easier when you have those open, and it's easier to bounce between different items. And this will automatically save. There's not a save button. If you go in and you highlight or you make a note, there's not a button you have to save it. It will still be there when you open this back up. And when you're done with it, just click the done button over on the left and it takes you back to where you were. The same thing goes when we are working under the handouts that are under the paperclip. You can type directly into those documents and it will save what you've typed in there. And so you will have that information. Okay, do you guys have any questions about this piece? We will live in this portal for the next 15 months. It is so helpful. And again, they're making changes because as I mentioned, they're moving from the NISL branding back under the NCEE branding. And so we'll see changes. That's okay. I have not been told that any of these icons are changing. It's just going to be the branding that changes. Everything else is the same. NISL has always been under that NCEE umbrella. They're just trying to streamline some things. And so that's why the transition. Okay. All right, everybody good with this? Any questions? Is there anyone that has not been able to get in has not received the NCEE email to register for the portal? Perfect. Okay, so everybody can jump in there. That's awesome. Okay, the other thing I'm going to show you before we leave that, over on the left, anytime you click on the house, it's going to take you back home. Again, it's going to take a minute. Okay, so it takes us back home. So here are a few things from the home screen besides getting into the individual units that you need to be aware of. First of all, this is something that's new and it's really cool. Under communities, when you click on community, over on the right, see where it says my communities and it has several different ones? You guys will have the OKC community as an option. So we can type things back and forth to each other. What I really like about this is since we're virtual, we're going to be doing quite a bit of work where you'll be doing things in small groups and you'll be doing things on documents, and then we share the documents. We're going to share the documents in this community. And the great thing about that is we will all have access. When we're face-to-face and we're doing this work, what you tend to see is people running around with their phones and taking pictures of things so that they remember it later. And I am the world's worst about that. I have pictures on my phone from Lead to Succeed meetings from 3 years ago. So we have those because it's great information, but we're going to have it, as long as we're virtual, we're going to have it in this community. And even when we go face-to-face, we'll probably keep using this in this format. So this is your community. Other people do not have access to it. It is just for our group. Going back to that home page, also under tools, we are going to be going through and using this as well. There is an action learning tab, and we're going to talk about this more in depth later. But you guys are going to be doing an action learning project over the course of our time together. Mine is in here. I did mine a couple years ago, so mine is in here as well. But on your action learning project, you will go to tools and click on that, and action learning is one of the tabs. And again, we'll talk about this later, but I want to show you the types of things that are on here before we move on. Okay? All right. Now, if there aren't any questions on that, I am going to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, everybody good? Back to a schedule? So, on your screen, what you should see is the Cohort 6 virtual schedule. So as I mentioned a little earlier, I did send this out to you in an email, but I wanted to have it up so we can see it together as well. I actually have shared 2 schedules with you. They came in the same email. One is a virtual schedule. The other one is a schedule for face-to-face meetings. For right now, we are going to follow this virtual schedule. We're doing that because we really need to be considerate of the COVID restrictions for each of your districts, and you guys are coming from all over the state. For Oklahoma City's COVID restrictions on how many people we can have gathering in a space and how far apart everyone has to be, and then also the guidelines at the State Department. So until further notice, we are going to be doing virtual sessions. We will be transitioning over to the in-person sessions, and I'll give you guys notice when we're going to do that. I'll send you an email, probably multiple emails, to let you know when we do that. So for right now, follow this virtual session schedule. So looking at this, our virtual sessions, which start next month on September 15th, will be from 8 o'clock in the morning until noon. So remember, log in a few minutes early in case you run into any glitches. I will send you a new link for the September meeting. And I'll send that out about a week or so ahead of time because I don't want it to get buried in your email. So I'll send that out to you here in a couple of weeks. Again, while we're meeting virtually, we meet 3 consecutive days a month. I included in the email that I gave to you not only the name of the co-facilitator for that session, but I also gave you that co-facilitator's email address. For instance, I'm at all the sessions. I'm one of the facilitators at every session, but in our first session, Lindy Reisenhoover from Jinx will be joining us. She's a principal at one of the elementary schools in Jinx. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. But she will be joining us as a co-facilitator. And I wanted to make sure that you guys had the co-facilitator's contact information because if you're like me, sometimes you leave professional developments and you're driving down the road and you're kind of thinking about, I wish I had asked this, or hey, I really wish I need more information about that. I want to take that back to my building. I want to be able to have you easily contact those co-facilitators if you need to. So scanning down through here, you guys are going to see several really familiar names because you've got people that are in your districts that are co-facilitators for us. All of these people have graduated from Lead to Succeed in the last few years. All of them were either building level leadership, assistant principals, or principals. Several of them have now moved from building level to district level leadership, but they're still active in the buildings, or at least in the district. So I wanted you to see this schedule. We do not meet in May. And the reason that we don't is because it is too hard to schedule around all the graduation activities and end of school activities that everyone has coming from so many different districts. So we just don't meet in May. We do not meet in July or in August once we get started. The only thing Lead to Succeed that happens in August is we do orientation for the incoming group. That's it. So normally, we will not meet in July and we will not meet in August, which is why, even though I've said this is a 15-month project, there are only 12 units. So we meet 12 months, but it's over a 15-month span because we take those days off. If you look down the schedule for Unit 7 and 8, you will see it. Unit 7, we are at the very, very beginning of March. Unit 8, we are the last day of March and the beginning of April. We wanted to get Unit 8 in before we really got involved in state testing. So that's why those two are so close. Other than that, it's about a month between the sessions, or as close as we could get. Okay? Any questions about that? If for some reason you can't find the email where I sent both the virtual and the in-person schedule, please let me know. I'm happy to send that to you again. When we meet in person, we will be meeting in Oklahoma City, and we will be meeting at the State Department. And so once we transition to that, I'll give you more information on parking and on all of that information, all of that you may need. Now, let's talk about absences. If you have to be gone from our program, if you have to miss one of those days, please let me know as soon as you know that you're going to have to miss. If you miss one day, I will contact NCEE and I will help make arrangements for you to get the work that you have to do before we meet as a group. So let's say September 15th, you're not going to be able to be there and you call me next week and say, hey, this has come up, I'm going to have to miss a day. I will contact NCEE. They will send you the work that you need to do and complete and it needs to be completed prior to the day that we will meet. So it has to be completed prior to that September 15th date that you said you would miss. And you'll send that back through NCEE. That's if you miss one time. If you miss multiple times, again, notify me because I need to make arrangements. But if you miss multiple times, instead of doing the paperwork that comes from NCEE, you actually are going to have to join another cohort for those missed days. So what you're going to see, I'll just give you an example. There was a gentleman that was part of my cohort that when we started the cohort, he and his family had already scheduled a cruise for June. He missed the June meetings. It just so happened it was already scheduled. He missed the June meetings. He missed 2 days. And so he will be joining the Sulphur cohort next month to complete those 2 days of the unit. So if you miss multiple days, you have to join another cohort just to make up those days. You could do that in state. You know, we always have another cohort coming up, so you can do that with that next cohort. You could also join one of the out-of-state NCEE cohorts to make up your days. If you do that, you're responsible for the cost of your transportation, hotel, and any additional costs. We don't have very many people that choose to do that. I'm one of the few that actually had to do that. I had to go to another meeting because of my job, and it was a day that could not be made up. And so I actually went to West Monroe, Louisiana, and joined their cohort for 2 days. And it was really interesting. I didn't know till I got there, that's where the Duck Dynasty people are. And so that was an interesting trip after my NCEE work. But I would be responsible for the travel cost and any of that. Most people don't want to do that. Most people are good with just waiting until the next cohort comes around and getting in on that one. Absences that are not made up will result in the participant not graduating with the cohort. Right now, you guys are scheduled to graduate with your cohort November 18th of 2021. So at your graduation, you will receive your certificate from NCEE that says that you've completed the work. You will also receive a certificate from the State Department, and you will receive an updated teacher certificate for you. Your work through NCEE actually counts as an endorsement on your certificate. So once you graduate and you complete all the requirements, you actually will have a new certificate with this as an endorsement. I take care of the printing. We take care of the cost on that. It's not something that's out of pocket for you. At graduation, I'll hand you your new cert. Okay, but if, like the gentleman that I mentioned who has to join the Sulphur cohort next month, that's the last thing he has to do is make up those 2 days. And so once he graduates, I will send him the certificates and I will send him his updated certificate, teaching certificate as well. Any questions about attendance? I will mention to you, there are 2 days that you cannot make up by doing the paperwork. So even if you just miss that 1 day, you can't make it up by doing the paperwork because of how it's structured that day. Those days are Unit 8, Day 2, and Unit 12, Day 1. You have to be present for those days, or you would have to join another cohort to make that day up. Okay?
Could you share those dates one more time? Something clicked and I missed the Unit 12 day.
Unit 12, Day 1.
Okay, got it.
And Unit 8, Day 2. And Unit 8, Day 2 is the one that snagged me and had me go to Louisiana to make it up, was because of that one.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat them one more time? It keeps dinging and I keep missing it.
Okay, so you cannot use the paperwork makeup method for Unit 8, Day 2, or Unit 12, Day 1.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. That's all
I
right.
had an issue and I had to step away, and then the dinging kept happening.
Hate it when the dinging keeps happening. Okay, everybody else good on that one? Okay. So we talked about the pre-work. Your pre-work, remember, it provides you with the information that you're going to need to take part in the whole group and the small group discussions. There will also be those online diagnostics that you have to complete beforehand that will be used in the session. So please make sure that you're completing the pre-work before you come in for those sessions. We will build our network within the cohort. We started kind of doing that today, getting to know each other a little bit. And as we're doing that, it's really important to remember, be an active participant. You get out what you put in on a lot of this, right? So be an active participant and respect the opinions and the viewpoints of others. And keep confidentiality in mind as we're going through this together. On both sides of this, for instance, we're going to be telling stories, things that happen in our buildings, in our districts. We need to protect the confidentiality of the people that are involved in those stories. So as someone, I think it was Donna that said earlier, she was talking about one of her 5th grade students. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think that was, thinking back, I think that was right. Awesome. So, but she did great. She didn't tell us the kiddo's name. She just said one of her 5th grade students. And in telling that story, we could all relate. We've all had that 5th grade student. So we know. And we'll be talking about things like that. Keep in mind, with confidentiality, nothing that would specifically point to that kiddo. The other thing we mentioned, if you have to take a call, something like that, that is an emergency, mute yourself so we don't hear anything that we don't need to hear. But the other thing is, keep in mind, we're building trust within our group. So some of the stories that we're going to tell each other, some of the things that are going on in our district that we want to bring up, and we want to say, hey, what did you guys do on this? Some of that we want to keep confidential too. And so it's not the extreme of this is the Vegas rule, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but it's along those lines of, we don't want to necessarily point out, well, in Middale, they did this, right? You know, we just want, Donna's saying, no, don't do that. So we want to keep it confidential. We want to keep that trust going among our group. We also want to observe our time and help us keep on track. You guys help me keep on track, I'll help you keep on track too. Because since we are going from our in-person schedule, which is 2 full days, to our 3 half days to do virtual, we're on a pretty tight crunch to get everything in. And so we're going to have to stay on track. And I'm going to work really hard on that, because when you guys were talking about time, sometimes time is not always my friend on that. And so I'm going to work really hard on that as well. Okay. Any questions on those ground rules? Okay, very good. So I want you to go ahead and take your journals out again. For those of you that have them, those of you that don't, again, no worries. Just write this down on a piece of paper or pull up a Word doc or whatever you're working under so that you could type this out. Because I want you in your journal to think back to your most memorable learning experience. You're not going to be sharing this with the group. This is 100% for you in your journal. That doesn't mean don't do it. I've seen people do that. But go ahead, write this down. Think about your most memorable learning experience. And what made that so memorable to you? Why does that still stand out to you where you're able to recall it?
Hey,
So
Jaycie.
let's take 5 minutes.
Jaycie.
Yes.
Is it supposed to be good or bad, or just the first one that comes to mind?
It's really up to you. because it may be something that was a complete flop. And why do you remember it? And really, if it's, and what have you done to not do that? You may look at it that way too. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the most positive. Okay, guys, you have 1 more minute to finish up your thoughts. Okay, did I give you enough time or does anybody need another minute? All right, okay. So again, if you don't have your journal yet because your curriculum box hasn't arrived, no worries, you're gonna get that in the next couple of days. Just take your journal entries from today. Remember, we started off with, as an instructional leader, what are you passionate about and what's your challenge? And then this one about your most memorable learning experience, and put these into your journal when you get those. And the thing is, with your most memorable learning experience, whether it's good or bad, it is etched in your brain. You remember what that is. And we need to keep that in mind when we're providing learning experiences to the people in our buildings or in our districts. We need to keep those things in mind, good or bad. We want to make sure we do these things. We don't want to make sure we do these things. That scenario, and we're going to come back and touch base on this later. So just keep those things in mind when you're planning back to school PDs, if you haven't done that yet, and upcoming faculty meetings, things like that. Make these true, positively memorable learning experiences. So, as I mentioned earlier, I shared the co-facilitators' contact information. You guys have received multiple emails from me at this point. So you know my email address. My office phone number is on all my emails, but I also want you to have my cell phone number. If we've been calling back and forth, you probably already have this because as you can see, I'm still working from home, but that changes Monday. So my cell phone is area code 918-822-7376. I want you to have this because once we are back in the office full time, I won't have my office number rolled to my cell phone like I do now. And I want you to be able to get in touch with me if something happens. Like when we go back to in-person, if you have a flat tire on the side of the road, call me. You know, those types of things. If you're unable to be there, let me know. And so we'll do that. The other thing is when you guys filled out that Google form for me, you know, there were several things that I asked you in that Google form. I asked you for your shipping address for the UPS mailing of your curriculum. I also asked you for a contact phone number. Some of you gave me cell phone numbers, some of you gave me school phone numbers. If when we're doing face-to-face instruction, if we run into a day that you can't, there's no way you're going to be able to get here because of weather, and I need to let you know that the State Department is closed because of weather, I'm going to call the number that you gave me on that contact form. So if the number you gave me is not one that you always answer, like my home phone, I don't answer that. I don't even know why it's there. So give me a number that I can contact you in case of something like that. Another good example for right now would be, you know, on Monday, Zoom went down, right? So if we had been scheduled to do something on Monday, I would need to get in touch with you guys. And yes, I would send an email, but it would be really nice if I could just do a big group text and send everybody a text or call or something like that too. So if you gave me a phone number that is your office extension that you're not going to answer because you're in the cafeteria or something like that, you might want to share a different phone number with me just so that we can keep in contact. Just email that to me. It's not something that you have to put in the chat or anything like that. Just shoot me an email and let me know, or text me and I'll add you to my list. And I promise I'm not going to call you except for Lead to Succeed things, probably. So anyway, I have really enjoyed today. We are finishing a few minutes early. You're probably not going to be too upset about that because it gives you a little bit more time to get back to your kids in the building and your teachers in the building. I look forward to seeing you in September. Remember to go back and look at that pre-work for Unit 1 because we will hit that heavy and hard as soon as we get in there on September 15th. So I will see you then. If for some reason you do not receive your curriculum between now and Friday, except for Dan, who I'll get with you, you guys let me know. And that way Michelle and I can kind of start tracking that down and figure out where it is and make sure you get that curriculum. And if you have any other questions, let me know, okay? It has been a great morning. I am so looking forward to this. I hope you guys are too. And does anybody have any questions before we're signing off for today?
Hey, Jaycie.
Yes.
I saw that Rhonda had asked in the chat about what the endorsement is called, and I may have been texting a teacher if you answered that out loud.
Oh, I did not. I didn't grab that. It is an NCEE, so National Center on Education and the Economy endorsement. And so it is a leadership, the Executive Development Program leadership endorsement. Right now, there are fewer than 120 administrators in the state who have this endorsement. So it's not something that everybody has, but it's something that we felt, because of the strength of the program, we really felt like it was something that we needed to do. So it will be on that certificate upon graduation. And sorry, Rhonda, I didn't check the chat. Was there anything else in there I missed? Let me glance. Okay. All right. So again, it was great to see you guys. I'll gift you back about 15 minutes of your day, and I will see all of you soon. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
So I think you'll need to stop the recording, Jaycie.
I will.
Yeah. I dropped off a couple times. My email or my